I'm so excited to talk about some of our favorite episodes for 2026 and share some nuggets that I think is really going to help the Clever Crew to get planned for 2026 and what's to come and what they want to actually happen. So we have a roundup here of what is it, five? Yep, one, two, three, four, five. We have five
Five.
of our favorite episodes, and we are going to talk about some of the topics so that if they perk up your ears and you want to learn more, you can just go directly to that episode. We'll link them at the bottom for you and listen to the whole thing. So, first, Mitch Matthews. Kat, I am so bummed that you weren't able to be there live with us
I
because
know.
Mitch killed it. His episode was incredible. He's such a wealth of knowledge and he's very charismatic. So this episode was really a great episode. One of my favorites actually.
Yeah.
Um, one of the concepts he talked about was how there's a difference between being burnt out versus being bored out. I'd never
Yeah.
heard it put like that before. And, we've talked about burnout a lot on Not Nice Clever and how that has impacted how we show up in our work and whether we want to work, all those types of
Mhm.
things. But he said people often confuse burnout with just being bored. Maybe you're just doing the same mundane tasks day in and day out, and you're just at the point where you're like, why am I even doing this? What is this all about? What's the bigger picture here? And he asks some really great questions that help you to determine which one it is. Are you burnt out or are you bored out? And he provides some solutions on how to manage that if you're feeling like you're bored out.
On my podcast, I got to interview a neuroscientist, Anne Laure Lecouffre. She's got an amazing story in that she was an executive at Google and she thought she was burnt out to the point where she quit. And that's where she got into neuroscience. She went back to school, and really has had an incredible career since. But what's interesting is that as she started to understand the brain more and more, she realized that what she was experiencing was not burnout, but what she was experiencing was burnout's little cousin that nobody seems to talk about, and that is being bored out. And being bored out feels a lot like burnout. And it often is people that are very busy, but they get bored out because they're doing the same tasks over and over. Oftentimes, those tasks, which there are usually many, right? Those tasks, they figured out exactly what it takes to be successful and do that. They do those tasks over and over again. But the reason why they start to experience bored out, which does feel a lot tired, it manifests itself as fatigue, frustration, lack of engagement, all of those things. The reason why people start to experience being bored out is the lack of new things, the lack of, as scientists put it, the lack of novelty. And so what I love about that is that's why I say give yourself permission to try something new intentionally from time to time. It's like, I'm not saying this week do a cooking class and next week sign up for a class in diesel mechanics, and then next week take a yoga class that you've never taken
Yeah.
before. Like it's not new all the time and just completely different things, but give yourself seasons of introducing intentional novelty. And it is amazing what that will do, especially if there's any chance what you're feeling and what you're thinking is burnout might, in fact, be bored out. That novelty, just that intentional burst of novelty from time to time, can be a game changer.
Yeah. I love that. From a brand strategist perspective,
Yeah.
if you're trying something new, you should be sharing the journey with your
Yes.
audience.
Right.
So I want to see people on their Instagram stories saying, I'm going to my first yoga class today and I'm feeling a little intimidated, right?
It's
Because there's
exactly
people in
right.
the audience who are saying, oh my gosh, I've been wanting to do that, but I'm so intimidated. I don't know what to wear or what to bring or like how to set up or what those words are that they're going to say. They're going to use a new language in there and I'm not going to know what to do. And you have all of that nervous energy and you're not starting, but seeing someone else do it might encourage them or might give them the confidence.
so clutch because as an introvert, managing your energy is your currency, it's your fuel. And if you are a solopreneur and haven't made that jump to being, a small business owner, it's all on you a lot of the times, or it feels like it is. And I don't know about you, Candace, but a lot of the successful entrepreneurs that I see, and also that I see in you and me, is that we are obsessed with what we do.
Yep.
We're obsessed. Like you can't talk us out of it, right?
No.
And we wouldn't
I
want
think
you
it's a
to. I
healthy
mean,
obsession, I think.
it's a healthy it's not it's not an addiction.
Right.
It's an obsession. And I love what I do so much so that when, Will works late, he'll call me on his way home and he'll be like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Well, obviously I'm still working because you're not here to chaperone me away from work because why not? Because I love to do it."
Yeah.
So I love that distinction that Mitch called out.
The other thing that he talked about, Kat, was how, as a leader, it's okay to say, "I don't know."
I don't know about you, but when I was new in leadership, I thought the way that I brought the most value was to have all the answers,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of leaders are tempted that way. And a lot of leaders get promoted to a position because they are knowledgeable, because they have been successful in a certain role. But once you start leading a team, as an example, you want to attract people who are wildly talented, who are also successful. Sometimes they do want the quick answer. Sometimes they do want the solution from you. And sometimes I always say, hey, there are going to be times where the building is on fire and you need a quick answer. Like, absolutely. But there are absolutely some times, even when we have a solution, to say to the person, hey, what do I think I should do here? What do you think I should do? And to say, well, I have some ideas, but what do you think? Right? To
Mhm.
allow them to own that next step. That could very well be that they might have some ideas, but they also have some fear around not going the way they'd hoped, or maybe looking like, they're making a mistake, those kinds of things. But to offer ownership, to invite them into the process, to hold them as capable as leaders is one of the greatest gifts that we can give. But I also think, and the importance of trust when it comes to leadership, right? It's so funny. I know when I was a new leader, if I didn't have the answer, I was so tempted to fake it. Right?
Oh,
Like, just
yeah.
to grasp at stuff and just say, well, like, try to be the most confident wrong person in the room and say, well, this is it. This must be it. But I realized when you do that, you actually cut at your credibility. The only person that believes you're being credible is you. Everybody else in the room knows you're faking it.
So funny because you do feel sometimes put on the spot, especially if maybe you're at a speaking gig and you feel like you are the expert and now someone's asking you a question and you have to say an answer. You think you have to say an answer, but "I don't know" is also an answer.
I love this too because it reminds me of like stories that Will has told me. And I've seen this in other areas too, but I love using like examples from, other industries. So where he'll tell me, if a piece of equipment breaks in the kitchen, they have a whole maintenance staff. He works for a large restaurant group. They have phone numbers they can call, they have vendors they can call, but the cooks, the sous, they all always turn to Will. They're like, "Where's Chef Will? He can fix it." Like, go get Chef Will. And Will's always telling me, he's like, "This is not my job." I'm like, "Yeah, but when shit hits the fan, who do they all turn to?" And even if you don't know how to solve the problem, they trust in you enough to figure it out either on your own or with the team together and to hold down the fort. So it's like being a leader doesn't mean you have all the answers. It just means you have the trust of the people around you to know that you will guide them and work with them to figure out the answer. Like you have that courage and that, again, obsession with being dedicated, you know?
That makes me think about Owning Manhattan. If you're watching season 2 of Owning Manhattan right now, which you should be, Kat and I just went to the premiere a couple weeks ago,
Mhm.
and I have it, like, playing in the background as I'm doing things
Gotta,
all like, on and off all
gotta
day,
support.
and
Yeah.
I also need to, like, sit down and really take in everything, but one of the themes that seems to be going throughout season 2 is how Ryan Serhant is growing as a leader and kind of pulling back the curtain of realizing that when he first started, like, he was working with people who he'd say, like, "These are my friends."
Right.
And that changes when you have, you know, brokerages all across the country and there's more and more people and your relationships change as you're business grows. And so kind of having to differentiate between his friendships and his employees, and also admitting that, of course, he doesn't know it all, because every day that he grows his business is the first day that he's ever owned a business that big, which is what Dom always talks about, right? Like, of course, I'm always
Yes.
learning because, like, as my business grows, the first day I've ever done this.
Right.
And he's really being vulnerable and open about that. And it's being received in different ways on the show by different
It is.
people
But
based
you
on
can watch it.
maybe when they came into his life, right?
Right. Well, that was something that I had thought about when I was watching it because Candace, you and I have worked with him for 4.5 years now. We joined the team around the same time in his sales training arm, Sell It, and it was a very small team at that point in time, less than
Yep.
10 people. Now there's not that many more, but there's been much change and the brokerage has just exploded. And so I think a part of growth too is letting go of what you thought you knew and admitting how much you don't really know in this kind of new era. And I'm even approaching this new year of like rethinking how I work with the
Yep.
team and how I view things, because just because it's been one way doesn't mean it's always going to be that way. And in fact, it definitely isn't going to be that way with
Yep.
all the growth that's happening.
So if you want a little lesson on leadership and giving yourself permission to say, I don't know, even when you are a leader, especially when you are a leader, then
Yep.
definitely watch Mitch Matthews' episode.
This next one, oh, shout out to our dear friend Neel Dhingra, founder and host of the Forward event. You must go every summer in July in Vegas. There's air conditioning, don't worry. But his episode was amazing. And the one phrase that I consistently quote when I'm doing trainings or workshops is building in public.
Creativity wise, you have to do it. You have to build in public.
Yep.
And people don't want to be embarrassed. They don't want to look stupid, but nobody cares. Like along the way, yes, you make improvements. And by the way, I look back at some of the things I did creativity wise for 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago, and I cringe. It's like full body pain. You're like, man, I can't even believe I suck that bad. But that's what should happen. If you're looking back at the same thing you did 2 years ago and you're like, oh, I'm about the same, you're not doing it right. You should be improving. You know what I mean?
I love that you said that you have to do it in public.
Yes.
Why is that so important?
So there's this concept called build in public. People don't get it, but the reason why you need to do this is because you enroll people in what you're doing and they follow you for the journey. People think I'll show it when it's perfect. By that point, nobody's bought in. You need to build your thing in public. Hey guys, I'm working on this. I'm excited about it. Here's what I'm doing. It's early stages. Okay, I'm getting this success. I'm building this. People come along for that and they will support you. They'll refer you. They'll bring people along. And those are the causes that we can really get behind. The only reason you get behind it is because they show the journey. And I think people just do it wrong. They think like, I'll show it when it's done. And what you'll find is anybody who's super successful wish they would have shown more of the journey.
Mm-hmm.
Because they wish they had more footage or stories about coming up. And everybody wants to see this, by the way. If you ask your audience, when you do reach any level of success, they're like, what was it like in the beginning? So somebody wants to learn how to do a successful podcast, and you've been doing this podcast for a while now, and you would consider it successful. Well, in the beginning, it wasn't successful, just like everybody else's. So there's people who are inspired by this, like, hey, what was it like on your first few episodes? You're like, I don't want to show that shit. Like, that sucked. But that's what they want to see. They want to see how it was because they can relate to it now.
Build in public. Just the sheer courage it takes to do that, especially as an introvert, especially with the trolls going off in the comment section, especially with those Reddit threads, like creating their own little universes. And we started this in our own like personal brand building journey years ago now, but it hasn't gotten any easier. In fact, I feel like now we even have more to lose because of what we've already built. I don't know, Candace, do you feel the same way?
Building in public is such a sticky phrase for me. I say it all the time, just like you, Kat. It really helped me to even explain things to my clients who are afraid of being cringe still, right?
Yeah.
How do you build in public? This is when you are starting out and people are saying things like, who does she think she is? Who does she think she is because she's maybe nothing yet? Um, but she's showing up like, she's an influencer all of a sudden. All of
Mm-hmm.
that comes with building in public, but the thing that also comes with building in public is the opportunity for people to really root for you because they've
Yeah.
seen where you've started and they now know where you're going and they now see where you are. And so that really creates strong relationships with your community because those people who've watched from the beginning, they are so
You're
on your
invested.
side. Yeah, they're absolutely invested and they're excited to share your story and say, well, if Neel did it, I saw him when he was like so nerdy looking. And I saw him when and Neel won't be mad at me for saying that. Like he shows videos of
Yeah,
this,
he went to
okay?
his first
He
forward
admits that.
event
Yeah,
in San
exactly.
Diego. Yeah.
Exactly. And he, had 10 people come to his first event or whatever the number is, but now he has
But he made it
1,000
seem like
people there
hundreds,
every
he
year. Yeah.
created, yeah.
Exactly. And so watching that makes me, excited for him, invested in what's to come, makes me, want to share his story with people. And that's the beauty of building in public. So if you're still on the fence about creating content or you feel like you don't know enough or who are you to do this, definitely listen to Neel's episode because there's so much there on just getting started.
Yeah. And I think the other piece of advice that I really like and lean into, especially now when things are so emotionally charged and so noisy, is to reignite your creativity, your inspiration by finding joy in something you used to do as a kid.
I used to play in a band when I was in high school, like a metal band. And nobody knows this shit. I haven't even told anybody on a podcast. But anyways, that got me into creativity. And then when I got older after college, got into the industry, and I feel like corporate culture and industry and job and life kind of beats the creativity out of you. And so, I used to have these markers and all this creativity. And then you end up just doing what you're supposed to do. And you make money and it's great. But then what actually got me back into bigger success was leaning back into like those, getting your markers back, getting some creativity,
Yeah.
doing some more stuff. And I think that's something everybody's got, these things where you used to do when you were a kid and you just gave up. That's actually the gold that would help you unlock things in business. If you can combine creativity with entrepreneurship and business, it's like the golden combination.
I love that so much because my coach asked me a similar question to kind of think back to where my desire for all of these things that I want now started. And I thought about having slumber parties, which were like my favorite thing to do is like having the girls over for a slumber party. And then I thought about what did we do at those slumber parties? We talked about our dreams, what we wanted. We built community. We just were there for one another. And that's what drives me now. Like I have these conversations on this podcast because I want to have those like slumber party conversations where you uncover more than what happens day to day at school, right?
Yep. And it's
And so,
also, think about this from a business standpoint, you help people move forward in their business. Like I know you do a lot of branding work. You've helped people in our community. They love working with you, by the way.
thanks.
And so this has been really cool. Like that's actually an opportunity to serve people as well. Think about this. There's probably an opportunity to put together some sort of mastermind slumber party.
Kids are so incredible in the way that they look at the world, their optimism, their curiosity, their relentlessness, and just doing things for the sake of pure joy and not for ROI. And often when you follow your joy, you do have
yes.
ROI like in different ways, and it can compound. And so like when Will was asking me like what I wanted for Christmas this year, I was just like spouting off some ideas, but one of them was I was like, actually, I used to do charcoal drawings and I used to watercolor. He was like, what? I'm like, yeah, I took art classes growing up and I took art like as an elective at community college. And it just really quieted my mind and like focused me in my body, similar to like practicing ballet. And I was like, yeah, I was like, maybe sign me up for a class or two here in Philly. Right. And it just like came out of nowhere. But I'm like, no, I
Well,
want to
that's fun.
go back
Yeah.
to doing that because it
Yeah.
was, I got a lot of joy out of it. But definitely go check out Neel's episode. Lots of just great life advice on top of business advice. Somebody you should know.
Absolutely. The next one we have is Whitney Euland. And if you guys don't listen to her podcast, you absolutely need to listen to her podcast. She talks about how fame is just the resource of having people's attention. And her whole thing is she teaches people how to be famous. And if that made you cringe and you're like, oh, like I don't want to be
Ugh.
famous, like you actually probably do want to be famous because you want people's attention.
You're
Like that
reacting to
is,
something. Yep.
yes,
Mhm.
exactly. She talks about how anyone, no matter what it is that you do, can leverage fame to elevate themselves, their business, their brand, and really kind of also discover who you are.
Fame is just the resource of having people's attention, and it's a neutral resource. It's a tool. It's just like, let's say a kitchen knife. You can use it to chop onions or to hurt someone, right? It's the same with fame. It's like going to be used in the hands of whoever wields it. And that's really where, my mission is to help good-hearted artists, creatives, influencers, entrepreneurs create the resource of fame, because it is just a resource of power ultimately. And I would argue that second to money, it's the world's most powerful resource. And it's also it's leverage. It's once you have this tool, you can leverage it into money, you can leverage it into opportunities, you can leverage it into access. And it really all starts with your willingness to be seen. So I say, like, fame is the resource of having people's attention, and you create it by being willing to be seen, basically.
With that being said, you believe anyone could be famous?
I do. Yeah. And I believe everyone can create the level of fame that they are meant for. I'm a very spiritual person, and someone told me once that being famous is like having a soul contract with millions of people. And I really do believe that there are so many of us who were put on this earth to make a massive impact, and to, I don't know if this was y'all's experience, but in my work, I see so many people that are like, yeah, I always knew I was supposed to, like, be doing interviews or be doing whatever. And again, this was before podcasting. This was before that really was available. And I really believe that our desires are our dharma, and they lead us to what we're supposed to do in this world. That said, fame is different. There's a different number that everyone has in mind when they think of famous, right? And for me, I'm like, I love that, like, traditional Hollywood fame, like famous. And there are other people that I work with who are like, I want the level of fame where I can make an impact in my community. And for them, that looks like, maybe it's 10,000 followers, maybe it's a solid podcast that is consistently bringing them in clients. Whatever that looks like for them, everyone kind of has their own, just like how everyone has a different number when you ask, like, what is rich, right? Or like, what is wealthy?
Yep.
We all kind of have different numbers of fame as well. And I really do believe whatever number or whatever level of fame you see for yourself and you want for yourself, that is something you are capable of creating. And it really just comes down to getting out of your own way and doing the work to feel safe being seen to create that.
She's so cool. I really love her.
She is. I feel like if we all lived in the same city, we would be friends. We're virtual podcast besties. The one phrase that she had said, which you definitely need to go listen to the episode, is new levels, new devils. In order to be more successful and have more opportunity, you need to be more visible, but then you're more vulnerable. How do you navigate that in client conversations?
Yes. So, and it's such a human thing. And I always say with fame, it's new levels, new devils, and it really comes down to, like, there's always going to be if you're for your next level, your next edge, there's going to be an increased vulnerability, and there's going to be and so then your brain is going to resist it. But the process is all the same. So no matter where you're at, it's about making peace and, like, getting somatically comfortable with that vulnerability. And so they're like, but I think for the first piece of that is noticing what your brain is afraid of, right, with this, and ultimately, like, cognitively kind of deciding, because the truth is, it is really uncomfortable to be seen in a vulnerable way. It's also uncomfortable to not have your dreams.
And when she said that, I was like, oh, that is so true. Like Ryan talks about, or Dom talks about, like, every day is a new day, a new first, because you're constantly, like, living on the edge of your comfort zone and not, staying in the familiar. And it's funny because this is like a paradox of being a human. We want to be seen and heard and understood, especially us ladies, like in relationships. And yet to be fully seen is actually terrifying because it's a form of vulnerability. So it's like we
Mhm.
want that, we're wired to want that. But then when we get it, what do we do with it? What does it show about us? And I love how um like systematic she is and like talking about it and just kind of like
Yeah.
destigmatizing all of it. Be like, no, it's a
Yep.
process, right?
Yeah, definitely check out her episode. You're gonna love it.
Mhm.
Next we have Brian Miller.
Ryan.
So
Oh,
good. Oh my gosh, such an amazing speaker. Kat and I saw him on the stage at Forward last summer, and he had everyone at the edge of their seats. He was so engaging.
yes. He's just such a like a great speaker, great performer. So he's a former street magician.
Not former, remember he corrected me in the episode. He said, once a
Oh,
magician, always a magician.
sorry. Yes, correct. That is still a part of his identity.
Yes.
His medium is just different now. But yes,
Yes.
he is a magician and speaker and just so cool. And one of the few extroverts that I've been around that doesn't actually exhaust my energy. So like that was really special. So
Yeah.
Candace, what part of his episode stood out for you? Except for
Um,
beside all of it.
yeah. He one thing that he said was opportunities don't look like opportunities. Opportunities look like people.
We all want great opportunities. I don't know anybody at any age that doesn't hope for a great opportunity to fall into their lap. They'd like something better for their life. And we spend our lives staring up into the sky, hoping that great opportunity will fall into our lap. And what happens while we're looking up is that we miss all the opportunities that are right in front of us. And the reason we don't notice them is because opportunities don't look like opportunities. Opportunities look like people. You
Mm.
have to talk to people, right? And so that's one reframe. But the other one is you can assign yourself a job title in life. And this is my favorite thing you can do. Give yourself the job title, collector of stories. If your job title is collector of stories, it's a lot easier to talk to a stranger
Mm.
because you're not trying to connect with them, which feels hard and heavy. You're not trying to make small talk, which an introvert might find scary. You're not trying to make deep talk, which an extrovert might find scary. Right? Like we have different problems. If your job is collector of stories, the only thing you have to do is collect their story. That's your job.
Mhm.
And that is such a great reframe for me and hopefully for the clever crew is that you don't have to be chasing opportunity. But if you realize that you invest in relationships, you invest in how well you communicate in your relationships, how deeply you communicate in your relationships, that opportunities will come.
Mhm.
And so he teaches people how to clarify their message so that people can easily repeat what it is that you do.
Mhm.
And you can connect more meaningfully with everyone you meet.
Yeah, the framework he shares in the episode, he shared on stage in Vegas. You must at least grab that framework from the episode.
Yeah, I mean, it's really step by step, it's really plug and
Yep.
play, so go there and use it.
The other thing too, and I'm like noticing patterns now that we're talking our favorites of 2025, is that he always talked about the two ways to become an expert because he does work with people to develop their TED Talks and get them noticed and mentioned and more famous, right?
There are two ways to become an expert. One is to go to school, get credentials, get a PhD, do the research, all that. That is a legitimate way to become an expert. And I actually, like, sidebar, think that is a very important thing that we have somehow dismissed. And we need to bring back respect and reverence for people who've done that. Because there's a
Mhm.
reason that there's gatekeepers. Gatekeepers are important. But the other way to become an expert is to simply obsess over a tiny, tiny niche topic more than anyone could reasonably expect. And I did that not out of some integrity for like the, academia or anything. It was really just to avoid looking like a damn fool in front of lots of people and people who'd paid me lots of money. And what happened is accidentally over the course of a couple of years, I became the expert on human connection because I was the only one that had
Talking
done
about
that
it,
level
researching, yeah.
of understanding. And I started writing a blog. I committed to a weekly blog at one point. So I had published over 400 weeks in a row at one point. I published a weekly blog. It came out every Wednesday at 8 a.m. It's the original Human Connection blog. You can go to humanconnection.blog. It still exists. I don't write it anymore. But like, so I became the guy that just obsessed over this.
And again, it's like that theme of obsession and just really committing and having the courage to go all in on one thing versus thinking that you're missing out, or maybe you need to pivot, or maybe this isn't trendy, or maybe people won't pay me for it. Like all that self-talk that gets in the way. And I tried to go the school route, didn't work, dropped out, and then I became obsessed over branding and copywriting. So I don't know. And Candace, you kind of did both. Like you've done both. Candace is that
both,
cool.
yeah.
They both work, right?
They both work.
Our last but not least favorite guest of 2025 is somebody who Candace stalked online, maybe, until we convinced her, even with the time difference of her being based in Indonesia, to come on the podcast earlier this year. And then we got to meet her in real life at Neel Dhingra's Forward event. Her name is Sade Zarahi, and you must know her. You must follow her. She is such a grounded wealth of knowledge for people learning to improve themselves, build their confidence, deal with their ego, break the mold of maybe what their family thought they wanted for them and they want something different. So many things. She also has a new book coming out, and you must go pick it up. Are you Googling it, Candace?
I'm just looking up the title. It's called Big Trust.
Big Trust.
It's coming out. Yep. And she has actually, definitely check her out, stalk her on Instagram, YouTube, all of it, because with the launch of her book, Big Trust, she's also doing these like webinars for free for people. And I know they're going to be value-packed webinars that are super actionable. If you listen to her episode, you're going to definitely want to jump on live with her. And she's doing that right now.
Love that. And I mean, there were so many things that she shared in our episode with her, but I think one of the things that is really relevant to share now, especially being that it's the end of the year and you're thinking about planning for the new year, and maybe you're reflecting and thinking you're not where you wanted to be and how could you do differently in the new year. She reframes the idea of feeling stuck or like in a rut as it's not a place in your life or a place in your business. It's just a state of mind.
There is always something we can do. That's if there's one thing that I want people to take away from our conversation, from anything that I do, is that you're never stuck. Stuck is a state of mind. There's always something you can do, whether that is to change a thought, change a behavior, go for a walk, call a friend, listen to this, this podcast series, whatever it is, there's something you can do to get you out of that rut.
Like if you're telling yourself you're stuck, of course you are. And if you stop telling yourself you're stuck, you will find evidence and ways to move through that and move past it.
She also talked about the power of the alter ego, which I think is huge and people underestimate that. But you've heard of celebrities who have alter egos to help them get on stage and push through. I can name so many, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Sasha Fierce.
You can choose at any point in time to start showing up as the person you want to be, because something magical happens when you make that choice to embody it's almost like embodying a new kind of self-image. So you're not faking it till you make it. You're being it until you become it. I don't know who said that. Someone said it and it has stuck with me. I never resonated with fake it till you make it because it sounds disingenuous, insincere. And as women, that doesn't resonate with many of us. But when you're being it till you become it, that taps into what's happening around embodiment. Like when we talk about embodying bias or embodying who you want to be, and then you start to internalize those ways of thinking and those behaviors. There's this fascinating line of research around how they did studies with children. And they said, okay, kids, I think 3 to 5 year olds, they said either they need to imagine that they're Batman or imagine that they're Dora the Explorer or someone they look up to. And they said, when things get hard, imagine that you're this person. What would that person or that character do? And they found that the kids who embodied this other brave version of, this other persona ended up persisting more. They stuck with the task longer.
It is absolutely okay for you to have an alter ego. That does not mean that you are being fake or inauthentic. That's just like a part of you that maybe you don't let be seen. But I think that there's definitely power in that idea, and it's for everyone. So check out her episode to learn more about that.
So I know that those were only 5 of the episodes that we covered this year, but there are really so many more. Truly start with these 5, take what you need, keep moving forward, and just always remember to not be nice to yourself, but be kind, especially during this time. You know, you can definitely be your own worst enemy, but we want everyone in the Clever Crew to be their own best advocate this year and moving into the new year.
Thanks for joining us on Not Nice, Clever.
Remember to follow Not Nice Clever wherever you listen to audio.
And if you haven't already, drop that 5-star review.
Share your takeaways, tell us your story. We love to hear it.
Signing off, you're not so nice, but oh so clever besties that mean business.
See you soon.